So this is the video that, if I'm being honest, I never thought I was going to make. But because a lot of you have actually requested this, let's have a look at the review of a Golden Pothos. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So yeah, as I said in the beginning, this is a review I didn't think I was ever going to make. If I'm being entirely honest, I've only ever used the Golden Pothos as a benchmark. I didn't actually think that people would want to see a review of possibly what might be one of the most common houseplants out there that I would imagine friends, family have probably been growing this for generations. But here we are, a lot of you have actually requested this, so you know what, great, let's dive into the Golden Pothos. So you might be able to notice I don't have a Golden Pothos in front of me. I will put a picture here because I've got two Golden Pothoses, Pothosi, plural of Pothos, or the Epipremnum aureum, otherwise known as. That's the botanical name. As far as I'm aware, there's been some contention about the name. If you've got differing views, let us all know in the comments down below. But yes, I thought I'd put a picture, and unfortunately you're going to have a picture next to me one way or another for most of this video because, as I was saying, two Golden Pothoses, Pothosi, one which is in my downstairs guest bathroom, which anybody who has seen the kind of recent plant room or all plant tour, and if you haven't, I'll link it at the top, you should be able to see where it was. And then there's another one that I've got in my office in the house, and that has wound over everything. So both of them are really not options that I can move. One, which is the one that's wound around like a whole kind of shelving unit, so and the other one which is growing on a moss pole. And I do promise I tried to move that for this video. However, it has either got 2 or 3 kind of the standard quar moss pole extensions on it. Very precarious, tiniest of pots, and it really doesn't have much balance, if at all. And I've completely forgotten that I would actually put a nail in the wall to then wrap a zip tie around the moss pole to then attach it to the wall. Very, very long story short, that thing is not movable. I tried to move it and I nearly snapped it in half. And I'm just like, no, I've been growing this for years. I do not want my largest Golden Pothos to snap. So picture. That gives you a bit of background on both of my plants. I have had multiple versions of a Golden Pothos in my life growing up, really. As I'm sure a lot of you out there probably have had at one point or another, and I think this background section is more going to be that. So I can give you some of my background experiences with the Golden Pothos. Again, I've done a tour of my kind of parents' plant collection, or just their house plants really, and again I'll link it at the top if you haven't seen it. And you should be able to see quite how many Golden Pothoses my mother has. And whilst growing up, that was always the case. There was always at least 1 or 2 or 20 Golden Pothoses in and around the house and the gardens, all these things. But again, I do not think I am the only one that has had that experience with the Golden Pothos. And it was interesting actually, because when people were slowly starting to get back into houseplants, and I can talk a bit more about this in availability and I'll go in a bit more depth, but it was actually, you could find a whole bunch of other different and interesting houseplants. But ironically enough, the 2 houseplants, at least in my location, that you could never find in a shop was a Golden Pothos and a spider plant. 2 of the most quintessential kind of 70s and 80s houseplants that everybody already had. that propagate super easily were the ones that you just couldn't find. I'm assuming because there wasn't any demand, because somebody could get a cutting from somebody's, or a pup from somebody's plant, so. But yes, the kind of quintessential golden pothos. Now coming into speed of growth, and this is the one that I always use my golden pothos as a bit of a benchmark for all of my other review videos that I've done on here. And I think what spurred me on to finally do it is on my last review, which was for the Philodendron Patriciae. Somebody made a very valid comment. They're just like, you always kind of benchmark all of your plants in terms of your speed of growth to your golden pothos, but you've not done the golden pothos yet. So I'm just like, light bulb moment. Whether or not, again, I don't know. I find this exceptionally entertaining because I don't know if anybody's going to want to see this review, or people are just going to watch it for the giggles, basically. But yeah, the golden pothos, in terms of speed of growth, and I don't have anything else to benchmark it against, it does, is what I always say in my videos, at least in my experience, whether or not, and this is an interesting one, because whether or not it's in here, because I have grown a golden pothos in here, that one, I think I've kind of, I only ever grew it in here so I could take cuttings and put the cuttings in water with other cuttings to help speed up the rooting process for other plants. So I ended up with a whole bunch of like pups everywhere, basically. But yeah, whether or not it's in here or whether or not it's in my house, on average, and like people that are watching this from all over the world, you kind of probably need to remember something in terms of what my location is. I am based in the UK, and whatever that might mean in terms of Northern Hemisphere, in terms of grey, today is a very grey day. I'm already seeing from the camera that the light levels are kind of going up and down for this video. I will try to fix that in editing, I hope. But yeah, it does mean different things. So like if I was benchmarking my mother's plants in Greece and Cyprus, which is sunnier most of the time, it's a lot warmer than it is here, even indoors and outdoors. My mother grows it on a balcony pretty much year round in a pot. It would be different speed of growth. Those ones do truly grow like weeds. In my conditions here, whether in here or outside, again, 2 to 3 new leaves each month, regardless of the season, to be fair, because I also do not give them the best level of light. If I gave them slightly brighter light, then they would probably do it better. But at the end of the day, it's a golden pothos, so like it gets whatever light I deem to give it, essentially. Now coming into ease of propagation for the golden pothos, and as I just said, super easy to propagate. So I'm hopeful that most people that are watching this video have propagated a golden pothos. If you haven't, welcome, Jumbo. It should be a relatively easy process, and I'm hoping everybody else in the comments might agree with me on this one. But yeah, it's a case where as long as you take a cutting and there's a node, and you can put it in kind of wet perlite, you can put it in damp sphagnum moss, you can put it in water, you can put it straight into the soil, you can put rooting hormone, you don't have to put rooting hormone. You could basically propagate a golden pothos in every single possible way that you could propagate, and it will probably be all right. Are any of these processes any faster than the other? I don't know. Maybe you know, let us all know down below if you've done an experiment like that to see which process works best. But the reality is, because it's such an amenable plant and it kind of is very tenacious, and people will always, I think, use the golden pothos, the Monstera deliciosa, and the spider plant as the kind of most tenacious houseplants because they just want to survive and they want to thrive, and you really, really, really need to be going out of your way, and this is not to shame anybody, to make them suffer. It's not impossible. But yeah, so I've never really tried. I think the only way I have ever propagated a golden pothos, like I mentioned earlier, is by cutting it and putting it in some water. Purely because I'm not that fussed about getting more golden pothos. I've got enough golden pothos as it is, and also because I want what the benefits are, and I don't think there's been ever really done any scientific research on this. I think this is all anecdotal from all of us, and it's something that we've noticed potentially, and this is why everybody's doing this now, which is by putting a golden pothos in water propagation with other cuttings that you're trying to root out. I'm trying to think, I think it might be oxen. So it's golden pothos has a kind of overabundance of, or it produces an overabundance of rooting hormone within water propagation, which essentially, because it's then diluted within that water vessel with other plants that are trying to root, the other plants get the benefit of that additional kind of rooting power. So I think a lot of people just end up using water propagation. And the really interesting thing about something like water propagation with a golden pothos is that you really don't have to worry about it in terms of kind of how quickly it roots out in order for you to put it in soil. I would say probably a few weeks, like 2-3 weeks maybe. And you probably should have relatively decent roots then to kind of go on from there, really. Now, coming into, and I can't believe I'm saying this, coming into availability for the golden pothos. I think this video is just going to be me giggling for most of it. Correct me if I am wrong, but I would imagine a golden pothos in most locations around the world in terms of where people might sell plants or house plants or even groceries most of the time is readily available for not a lot of money. You're looking at single digits in most countries, I would guess here, unless you're getting a very, very large. So one of the things that you do see these days, a lot more than you probably would have done a few years ago, instead of seeing the usual kind of, I don't know, 8-inch pot with like a few vines of golden pothos coming out of it, you will see like a full-grown golden pothos plant on a moss pole with relatively large leaves, possibly some leaves with the splits in them as well. So there is that, which is really, really cool. Those tend to be more in the double digits, but again, not hugely expensive based on what I am seeing here. And it is one of those things that I don't think this is ever going to change. I'm pretty sure that the golden pothos is possibly one of the most grown plants by commercial growers worldwide. And again, I might be wrong, correct me if your location is very different and it's very difficult for you to find a golden pothos, but at least where I've always been based, so kind of the UK, Europe, all of these things, it is everywhere. And also, have a look at any of your favorite TV shows, movies, things like that. Usually when there's a houseplant in the background, invariably it's going to be either a Monstera deliciosa, a golden pothos, or maybe a Sansevieria. If you're really, really bougie with your movies, you might even see a ZZ plant. But there's a reason why these plants are kind of synonymous and they're everywhere. It's because they are fast growers, they're easy growers, they're super easy to propagate, they're not particularly demanding, they don't need a whole bunch of humidity, which means they are everywhere, which also means they are cheap. And even if you didn't want to buy a golden pothos and you didn't want to spend the single digit of money that you could need to buy that plant, you could probably ask at least 3 or 4 of your friends and just go, has anybody got a golden pothos? Can I take a cutting? They would probably say yes. I'm guessing here. I'm pretty sure most people that have got houseplant collections, even if they don't have a golden pothos in their collection anymore, they probably have had one at some point. And I think a lot of people with big collections, if they do have a golden pothos, it's for one of 2 reasons, I would imagine. One is because it's super easy and it's a bit of extra easy green that you can pretty much put in most lighting conditions and it will do okay. And it grows tenaciously. You can kind of let it be feral. I do love my feral plants. And you don't have to worry about it. So that's why most people would still have it. And also I would imagine in a big collection, even if those are not why you're keeping it, is it because you want the benefits of being able to cut it, shove it in some water for water propagation, even if you don't use it all the time? I'm curious. But yes, availability for the golden pothos, like super available and super cheap. I'm coming into pests with this one, and this is an interesting one because I was trying to go back in my memory to think of any real heavy pest pressures on this plant. I'm coming up with a blank, and the reason I think for that is because I think I have seen thrips on it a couple of times, never got insane. Maybe the odd mealybug. I have never seen a spider mite on mine. I've never seen whitefly on mine, and I'm talking specifically about the golden pothos, not other epipremnums here. I don't know. Never seen aphids. Never really seen anything particularly heavy pest infestation on any of my golden pothoses in any household, any condition, any house that I've lived in, or any location. My mother doesn't even have any real pests on her golden pothoses. This is what I mean. It's an easy plant. It's like you don't even really have to worry too much about pests. I'd be curious, have you had pests like to like an obscene amount on a golden pothos? And I'm not talking about golden pothoses that might be getting the worst possible light and have never been watered other than with maybe like coffee or tea once a year. Like those are different. The ones that you get in the offices that look a bit, not those, but like an average golden pothos that you care for, like normally, even if you even if you treat it a bit feral. Like, have you had any pest problems? Because I really can't think of any right now. Now, accessories and care for the golden pothos. It's really not that fussy. You can grow it in terracotta. You can grow it in a plastic pot. I think I've seen people that are growing it in closed vessels as well, so without drainage holes, and they're being very careful. I won't touch on that topic because I know other people do it a lot better than I do. You can grow it up a moss pole and you'll get those bigger leaves and you'll get those splits on the leaves. And I know a lot of you, because you message me on Instagram, and if you're not following me, why are you not? But a lot of you out there have sent me amazing pictures, and I think it's predominantly a lot of my followers might be kind of in Florida or Miami specifically, around the US, those kind of slightly more tropical climes, where you've got them growing outside and then growing off the side of a tree, either because you put it there or because it accidentally ended up there. I'm also wondering, would that also be considered an invasive species in some of those locales? And maybe there's places that are just like, do not ever put a golden pothos in the ground outside because just no. I'm thinking by UK standards the same as putting ivy in the ground here. You'll be trying to remove it for years to come. But yeah, like, you can let it trail and you'll get slightly smaller leaves. You can put it up a moss pole and you'll get those big fenestrated leaves. That was the point I was trying to make with the people from the more tropical climes. They sent me some amazing pictures of some of the plants that they can see that are absolutely stonking huge. Think bigger than sometimes even a Monstera deliciosa mature leaf, or at least on par. It's insane, the potential of this plant. Because most people just know the golden pothos, the kind of vines a bit on the side of somebody's like dresser at home or something. Nobody ever thinks about how big and mature it can get. But yeah, like accessories wise, try things. Try different soil types. You can give it an aroid mix. You don't have to give it an aroid mix. I'm pretty sure my mother was growing it in garden soil for a large chunk of her life. Pretty sure some of them might still be in garden soil. It's okay, as long, in terms of the care, the big thing with golden pothoses, as far as I'm aware, is don't overwater it. So if in doubt on whether it needs watering and you can feel that it's still maybe got some moisture, just wait for a few days, wait for a week. You should be fine. It's one of those plants that I'm pretty sure I've seen a golden pothos at some point that hadn't been watered for 3 to 6 months. And it looked it, but it also eventually got watered and they were able to nurse it back into health without too much faffing of nursing. Like, it was fine and it did okay and it grew like mad. And yeah, you could always kind of give it some fertilizer. Do you need to be kind of really specific with your fertilizer? In my experience, no, just give it whatever you can give it. Again, the video that I did of my mother's collection, there was that, which I'm glad that a lot of people were like, appreciated that like milk jugs that she just fills up with some water, maybe some random fertilizer that is good for leaves, and puts it in, and it's fine. I am pretty sure my brother has grown a Golden Pothos, and that Golden Pothos pretty much just survives on tea. I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying I'm pretty sure that in his brain, he thinks tea, and there probably is some kind of reasoning behind this. There's some form of nutrients in black tea, by the way, no sugar, just black regular tea. But yeah, it's not fussy. It really isn't fussy. There are certain issues that you can get, and one of my most recent videos was talking about my Apopremnum skeleton key, which I've seen in front of me, still struggling, where you do get, and I've had a couple of questions like this over the years from a lot of you actually, where 1 or 2 leaves might yellow on a Golden Pothos somewhere on its growing habit. And you know what, like a lot of the times people kind of really would love a specific answer, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it happens to my Golden Pothoses on occasion as well. Does it ever harm the plant? No. Is there root rot? No. And even if there is, the Golden Pothos, unless everything is rotted to mush, and even if it is rotted to mush, it is one of the most forgiving plants. As long as you've got a stem that is still stemmy and it's not rotting and kind of like turgid, you should be able to just cut it up into small sections, put it in some water, and it will root. The Golden Pothos, for me, and I think for a lot of people, is just the workhorse of kind of most houseplants. It just keeps on chewing, it keeps on going. It doesn't need an awful lot of attention. So if you are one of the people that doesn't have any houseplants and you're thinking maybe I should get a houseplant, maybe you're watching this and you're wondering why this lunatic online is giggling like a madman, it's a good thing. If you've never owned a houseplant and you want to try something, go for the Golden Pothos 100% of the time. But yeah, let's dive into some final thoughts. So I'll start this like I usually do with these videos in terms of giving it a score. First one, and again I can't believe I'm asking myself this question. If I didn't have a Golden Pothos, or several at this point, would I add them to my collection? Yes. It's a simple and easy yes. For multiple reasons. Easy, they don't need an awful lot of fussing, they will grow quite happily, they're tenacious, they propagate like a charm, they help with other propagations. They don't have an awful lot of pests. Like, what's not to want about a plant like this? And it's easy. It's just easy. Easy. And then a score from 0, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. This might surprise you. I think this might be one of the few plants that will get a full 10. It does generally do what it says on the box. It's a plant, it's a house plant, it will do okay in most conditions. It's very difficult to kill it, not impossible. It doesn't need an awful lot of things, so for that reason alone, of course this is going to get a 10. Of course this is going to get a 10. If we're doing it on just appearance, and I know a lot of people might find it a bit boring and really pedestrian and it's everywhere and it's there's better houseplants out there, I hear you. I probably wouldn't give it a 10 for a score, especially if you're letting it trail down. I know there's going to be people that disagree with me, and that is absolutely fine. That is, we all have different opinions of this. But I will offer you a challenge to the it looks boring. Does the big ones that you can get on moss poles that get those massive fenestrated leaves, are those boring too? Because I don't think a lot of people would say that. Those are very, very interesting. Like, you kind of get Monstera deliciosa vibes without the time frames for Monstera deliciosa. At least in my experience, putting something like a Golden Pothos on a moss pole is a lot faster to get big, sizable leaves that split. And you still get that variegation, that the yellow and the yellow parts of those leaves. It doesn't always necessarily go away. It can, but it doesn't always necessarily go away. So you do get like a very large split leaf, variegated looking plant for not an awful lot of effort, basically. So yes, in that respect, I would still give it a strong score. As I said, if you're just having the traily one, in my humblest of opinions, it's a bit dull, so maybe a 6 for appearance for those ones. But for the big ones with the big leaves, with the fenestrations and still some of that yellow variegation, it's going to be a 10 again. But as I said, I'm finding this video is tickling me crazy. And it's not in a bad way. It is a good thing. I always have loved, and I think I always will love, a Golden Pothos. The simplicity of it, the ease of it, and the joy that it can bring for very little real effort, and all of the slew of other benefits. I don't know if I would go as far as say, is this the king of houseplants? But it's a strong contender to be a king or a queen of houseplants. Very, very, very cool plant. But yes, hopefully you've enjoyed. Do share some of your kind of kooky experiences with the Golden Pothos down below. I would love it. I would love to hear from you and see kind of how maybe you've had experiences with it growing in your conditions or even growing up around it. Let me know down below and let's have that conversation. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.